Hey everybody, welcome back to another Judgment commentary of Koyomimonogatari, but today we're going to be checking out episodes 9 and 10, but last time, on episodes 7 and 8, we were met with two new strange circumstances for Araragi to deal with. First of which involved Tsukihi. You see, she went to Araragi with a bit of a problem involving one of her clubs where all the other members of the club thought that there might have been a spooky ghost in their midst because there were only 7 of them, but many of them swore that they saw an 8th person there at some point. So they thought there was a ghost, but Tsukihi doesn't seem to really believe in ghosts. She thinks that's a bunch of nonsense, so she tried to explain to them through logic and reason why it couldn't have been a ghost, but they just kind of blew her off, saying, I guess that could be an explanation, but we'd rather think there was a ghost. So she asked Araragi what to do about it, and he was like, well, you tried, you gave it your best shot, they didn't believe you, so I guess you gotta move on. And in response, she decided to stab him in the eyeball with one of my favorite writing implements, a multicolored ballpoint pen. Of course, Araragi was quick enough to dodge out of the way, but yeah, that's Tsukihi for you. She does have a weird tendency to want to stab people. Not sure what that's about. But eventually, after Araragi was unable to find a solution to this, he went and talked to Suruga, who told him that the right way to go about this would be to, well, lie. That they would have to lie to Tsukihi about why they thought that there was a ghost. And Araragi was perfectly cool with lying to her. I mean, he already did it once before during their conversation anyway, when he said he doesn't believe in ghosts because, well, we should know very well by now that he does. So his lie was that they were only pretending to say that there was a ghost, when really they were just trying to spare her feelings because she ate a lot of food. And they're like, oh, well, you see, there's a lot more food eaten than usual. We'll just say that it's an 8th person instead of calling Tsukihi out for it. Now, whether or not Tsukihi actually fell for Araragi's lie or not was up in the air, and they were even presenting that as a bit of a question to think about, but there's no evidence either way whether or not she actually believed Araragi's lie, or if she was just also sparing his feelings and just going along with it, but who knows? Doesn't really matter. But the next episode is even more interesting because it involved Ogi, and any episode with Ogi is always interesting, but what happened in that episode is that she just brought Araragi up the mountain to the shrine to tell him a little story about where the shrine came from. Apparently the shrine that's there now used to be somewhere else, and for one reason or another, they decided to move it up there, and she asked Araragi how they would have done so. Because the prospect of moving an entire building up a sacred mountain without changing too much of it, well, that is a bit of a conundrum. She dropped the hint that there was some minimal construction that was done, but that there also wasn't the path built up there yet, so it's not like they could have moved the entire building brick by brick. So what actually did happen? How did they move the entire building up there? They didn't. Instead, they just cut down a bunch of trees to make a space for the building, and then used the wood from the trees to make a new shrine and just say that it's the same shrine. It wasn't the shrine itself that was moved there, but rather their belief, their faith in the shrine is what moved. Pretty obvious answer. I mean, most people would think immediately, well, I guess they just built a new one, but... And interestingly enough, the one who provided Araragi with this solution was Nadeko. Yeah, obviously for thematic reasons, given her ties to that shrine. And they decided to throw in a whole bunch of imagery and subtle words to connect us to the Nadeko Medusa arc. Also, apparently they dropped a few hints that it wasn't actually Nadeko who rebuilt and made the shrine look all nice like we saw. It was actually just some individuals, just some people who, through rejuvenated faith in the shrine, decided to go up and clean the place up a bit. I mean, I guess it makes sense given that a new god had just moved in. Maybe a few people would just suddenly be inspired to go up there and clean the place up. Still, it was interesting. Ogi expressed that maybe they might have thrown off some of the balance of the mountain by doing what they did, but perhaps it was, Nadeko who readjusted the balance a bit. But yeah, it was interesting. Ogi hinted towards the idea that them moving the shrine there upset the balance, and I mean, maybe if you want to read into it, perhaps Ogi specifically wanted to make Nadeko the god of that shrine to try to readjust that balance a little bit. Might explain why she tried to get Kaiki killed at the end of that arc there. But hey, that's enough rambling for now. I definitely dragged it on maybe a little too long, but whatevs. Let's get on to episode 9, which will apparently involve Shinobu in some way, if the intro is anything to go by, which they always have been thus far. To say the bare minimum about it anyway, but yeah, it was just about Ononoki trying to keep Araragi away from Kaiki, apparently. I'm having a little bit of trouble, but I think I'm piecing it together. I mean, the obvious place this would be is in the middle of the arc with Kaiki trying to talk down Nadeko, right? Because that was when he was in town just every day, like she said, and when Araragi and him didn't run into each other, at least not at first. It does explain why she wanted to go for that specifically, you know, wanting to hold him up on her finger, because otherwise, if she just needed to go high up to look for something that she was looking for, she could have probably just jumped up really high. But maybe that would have been too high, you know? I'm not sure to what degree she has of control over that. But it's unimportant because that was beyond the scope of her intent anyway. Like, this last one would be really interesting because it, more so than most of these, attempts to, like, fill in, you know, a point in the series we didn't see. Because if it was Ononoki just trying to keep Araragi from running into Kaiki, then, I mean, that fills in what Araragi was getting up to during all that. And this for sure would have to take place before, you know, the end of that arc with Kaiki, because he still thought he was going to die. He thought that at the end of the graduation that Nadeko was going to kill him still. But based on what they were saying, this is right in the middle of when Kaiki was trying to talk down Nadeko. Pretty interesting. Like, if that's the case, then this would be a very unique one for Koyomi, because it doesn't take place, like, in between arcs like a lot of them have, or, you know, shortly after one. This would be taking place smack dab in the middle of one. Like, as one was happening, but seeing it from Araragi's point of view. Which is actually fitting, because that arc was one of the only ones that didn't really involve Araragi that much at all. Usually Araragi's at least there, but that was one of the only arcs where he just wasn't until the very end. So it makes sense to get a little bit of what he was doing in the middle of that. And episode 9 was just fun stuff with Shinobu wanting to eat donuts, while also teaching Araragi some important lessons about how to properly negotiate. Just the idea that she was like, no, Shinjigahara might have poisoned these, let me taste test them. You know, taste test all of them. It's the classic gag. Only in this case it kind of got flipped on its head because she ended up surrendering all the donuts to him to eat, minus the one she actually tested. She took the one donut she wanted and then left the rest to him with a little bit of cryptic wisdom. And then decided to take off her leggings and have him put him on as a blindfold. And gagged him with them too, because why not? When all he had to do was just close his eyes. You know, like he would normally do for a hide-and-seek-esque scenario. Also, earlier at the very beginning of episode 9, when I saw Torus, I was like, you mean like the constellation, the astrological bull thing? That would be Taurus with an A. Also with a U and not an O. But in this case, it was Taurus as in the shape that a donut is. I was not actually super familiar with that term until now, so cool. And on the topic of the titles of these episodes, the second one, Koyomi's Seed, was completely metaphorical. Just entirely. There was no actual seed or anything like that, no physical seed to be talking about. It was him metaphorically planting seeds. And I believe what he was referring to when he said that was his meetings with Nadeko were supposedly planting seeds, but no. Or, alternatively, he just meant that these circumstances, these events, are from his actions, that he sowed the seeds that led to this, and now he has to do something to stop it on his own. That's probably more so what he meant. But either way, he's not going to be the one to resolve this. Kaiki is. and also Senjigahara because she, hired Kaiki to do it. But now, what we have to do every time is check out the intro for the next one, so let's see it. Oh, no intro! Yeah, Koyomi Nothing, perfect! But yeah, no intro at all. It's called Koyomi Nothing, which, yeah, that seems about fitting, but I guess that would probably imply that maybe it's centering around a character who doesn't have an intro? Maybe? I mean, there's definitely other characters in this show who don't have intros. I was gonna say Kaiki for a second, but no. Kaiki technically had an intro. He had one where he was involved in it and he sang a song, so I would say that's his intro. But perhaps someone like Gaien, who does not have an intro, could be the one this is centered around. Maybe. But we'll see about that, guys. For now, that's going to be it. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed. Subscribe to be updated on more. That would be great. Next time, we got the final 2 episodes of Koyomimonogatari, episodes 11 and 12. First up has no intro and is called Koyomi Nothing. There's nothing. There's nothing to discuss. Now that's gonna be fun. And whatever 12 has, I don't know. How do you follow up from nothing? But these couple episodes were fun. Even had some nice heart to them, Especially the one with Ononoki, because I believe they said that part of what was motivating her was love. Aw. So that's pretty good. I definitely had fun with these 2 episodes. They were some of the most fun, for whatever reason. But we'll see what fate has in store for the finale of Koyomimonogatari, and hope to catch you guys there. But till then, I will see you guys later.